Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks very much indeed for stopping by the Time Bomb channel. The watch of the day today, encompassed in here, we have the Universal Geneve Polerouter date, and this one comes from all the way back 1968. It's been lent into the channel by a very, very kind subscriber. And also thanks to an article in Rinky Dinky, there's been a flurry of excitement around these particular watches as if they've sort of been rediscovered by collectors. This one then is the reference 269101/01 and presented with the original box and paperwork. Let me just pop the paperwork out because I wanted to show you something interesting at the back here. Just a nice little touch that I picked up on. If we come right to the back here, I'm just fascinated. Look at the wonderful handwriting of our shop assistant who sold this one back in '68. I mean, that's some fantastic lettering. Anyway, let's just pause the camera there while I zoom in so we can get up close with the watch, which is the more important thing. So yeah, these watches then, need a little bit of explanation perhaps if you're not familiar with them. As I say, coming with the box and that original paperwork, it's quite unique, and I think it will certainly add a couple of cents to the value of this particular watch. But more importantly, let's have a quick think about the background on these. If you haven't read that article, let's put you in perspective. Imagine that you're a 23-year-old again. It's the early 1950s, and your name is Gerald, and you've been asked to design a watch. The design brief is a watch that commemorates some long-distance flying from Copenhagen to LA via the North Pole. And the first commercial route of its kind of an impressive feat. It's a 22-hour flight, though, and probably not one that you want to do cattle class, as you're going to be as cramped up as a cramper on Cramper's Day. Add into that the minor complication of the North Pole and its magnetic tendencies, and then you reach for your pencil. This, I believe, was the first version that young Gerald came up with, and note the name on the dial there is Polarouter, which I understand was the one that was used for the first few versions, and then they changed to this one, which became then the Polarouter. Since then, I mean, there's been a huge number of variations, and there's more photos that I want to pop up here for you. If you just jump onto Google and bang in Polarouter, it brings up loads and loads of images, and also there's some very good websites and forums which detail everything that you might want to know about these. Please note also that they even went as far as doing a quartz version. So yes, just for the haters out there, I thought I'd drop that one. Anyway, more importantly, Gerald Genta and watch design. For most of you, I mean, owning one of his design watches is a little on the complicated side due to the finance. And that's probably one of the reasons why the Polies, have become a little bit more magnetic to collectors of late. However, if the name Genta doesn't tickle your tickly bits, then there's also a suggestion that Bruce Lee owned one for a while, and worn quite curiously, as you've seen here, on a bund type strap. Bruce just doing his own thing there. Let me grab a polished cloth. Yeah. Sorry, my OCD just picked up a fingerprint on the crystal there. So yeah, just wanted to wipe that off because up close you probably don't want to see that. Our 1968 version here is all dressed up in rose gold. As you can see, and to me, sorry, it's just a little bit too goldy and a little bit too rosy, because if I pop it on wrist, you'll see what I mean. I think maybe, well, I don't know, what should we call it? My skin color, my tattoos. I just don't think, I don't know, it's just, it just looks a bit wrong on my wrist. But anyway, who cares, right? I mean, this is just my wrist, it's not your wrist. My wrist is 1 in a billion, so yeah, you wear what you want and you wear what you like. Coming back to the watch more seriously, key aspects, I mean, you've got some very, very pointy hands there for your hour and minute. I think, quite significant how needly sharp they are. The other thing one of the things that I really like about this is how the design of the markers, the hour markers, so I'll pop up some close-up shots here because they're getting a lot of reflection, how you've just got those etchings, vertical etchings into the hour markers. And the thing that I really like about those is that when you move the watch, how the light refracts off them, and you know they're either super dark or super shiny, which you know almost shouldn't work, but again it's such a nice subtle little detail. The only on these particular rose gold versions, the only real sort of color contrast is actually provided by that little date window there at the 3, and it sort of crosses over between sort of, it's almost like the Rehort and then that center dial disc there as well. Yeah, let's call it the tracked rather than the Rehort. Anyway, moving on. So the case back, let me just polish that up as well. It's quite a fingerprint magnet. We could just about see, I'll pop up a close-up. You can just see the very faint numbers at the bottom here over on the close-up. Without the reflection. It's nice because obviously those match identically with our paperwork, which again is going to add another couple of bucks onto the overall sale value of these. I think just coming back to the colorway on this one of my choice, as I say, because there's so many varieties of these, I mean, I think one of the silver black combos would work better on my wrist, but yeah, that's just me. The other thing I wanted to flag up on the back side here is you notice around that case back is that you've got those little slight hexes. Again, very subtle detail, which is stop it from being completely circular, gives you something else to look at. But as I say, very, very subtly done. The other thing that I was thinking of was when looking at that case back is it is quite shiny beneath all those, and it's quite common on these vintage golds for them to get polished up. So I'm wondering how much this one may have not been. I don't know. Tough to tell, because if you can see on the again on the close-ups, you'll see actually on the inside there under the glass, there's quite a lot of scratching, and it's not necessarily mirrored by the volume of scratching on the back, which you might find. But anyway, it's tough to know what's happened to a watch since 1968. More importantly though, this one does come with the signed U crown here, which is really good to see, because again, many watches of this age have had replacement crowns added just due to default, them breaking down. I think, if I'm not mistaken, and also from the touch, I think this one has the original plexiglass up top. And I've also read that sometimes that these plexis were often signed with a little U, a little bit like the Rolex, I think just down at the 6 on theirs, and just over the top. But try as I might, I can't see the U on here. Again, it might be a replacement plexi, or maybe it wasn't signed on this particular model. The rotor in here, it's quite a noisy one. And again, I think by 1968 they'd moved on to the micro rotor, but that sound does remind me a little bit of the Orient Bambino rotor. Just the rotor, not the watch, please. It might be that the rotor as well, perhaps it may change a little bit, perhaps through a service, or maybe it's actually supposed to sound like that. This is the first one of these I've had in hand, so apologies if I've got that wrong. I imagine it's also kind of tough to get parts for these, because you'll no doubt need donor parts, donor innards from another watch. The twisties on the lugs is another thing that I wanted to pick up on. Again, it's so subtle. It's just there's that little inner twist here. I'll pop up some close-ups because you can see it better. When there's less reflection of the light. Again, it's a very subtle detail, but I think it's important, because overall, I think when you consider the size, is it 34, 35 mils across here, you've got 19 mil lug spacing here, and that's quite broad in comparison. You'd imagine these to be sort of, having a much narrower luggage, and I think that just emphasizes as well, it marks the importance of that lug width there. In addition to which, I don't know if you can just see there, the dial itself is actually deeper than you would perceive on first glance. On first glance, it probably looks quite shallow, but then up close, you actually see that the opposite is true. There's quite a step down between that, again, what we were calling it sort of a minute track Rehort, down to the dial. Again, subtle differences. It's been raining here pretty much for the last 2 days here in lovely England, so it's kind of tough to get some sunshine shots of this one. So please, I'm going to have to ask you to add a little bit of sunshine in your imaginations and imagine what this would look like, you know, with natural light playing off it. When I was digging around thinking about Universal Geneve as a brand, it kind of surprises me that it hasn't been revived again. I think there was an attempt a few years back where somebody sort of, you know, bought the name, but thinking with the bigger watch houses, you know, pushing that Swiss brand envelope, it seems a little bit like a given that, you know, somebody might want to snap up that brand and you know, I'm sure if they redid these things, they'd sell bucket loads of them. But anyway, that's just my view. I'm pretty sure that I've missed something with the background or the detailing on these. As I say, this is the first one I've had on wrist. So please do feel free to add in some corrections and additional details that we can share with our fellow watch nutters. That would be much appreciated. One of the key things that I wanted to try and find out specifically was when Genta actually stopped being involved in the Polarouter design. You know, what point did he stop contributing, and were they just regurgitating his designs? Was it up to the quartz period? Again, I don't know. It would be useful to understand that, specifically because I think that's one of the key things that is attracting people to this particular watch and watch design. In conclusion, then, I think if you can put the hype aside and you can and enjoy the watch for its design, simplicity, subtlety and class, I think this one is certainly going to fit well in your watch quiver and sit there for a very long time. Really, really lucky to have had this one in on the channel. Thanks again to our subber for that. It provides a nice contrast to the G-Shocks, and it packs a little bit of that horological class that has been attracting so much attention of late. All right, guys. Look forward to hearing your comments and thoughts down below. Give you a last little overview of this one here. Thanks as always for your time and for your view. And of course, until the next watch vid, this is your host, the Bombardier, signing off. Cheers, guys.